stop. David Wright has won 2 Gold Gloves. Not a good throw, though.
Joe and John, why do the Mets still stink?
For the record, have you ever used steroids, human growth hormone, or any other performance-enhancing substance?
No.
Will in New York, the third baseman, number 13, Alex Rodriguez.
Sanchez gets hit, the ball is loose, and it's alive, and then going into the end zone is Steve Gregory.
As a professional quarterback, I know there's nothing more embarrassing than running into the ass of a 300-pound lineman.
Brady's back. Brady's under pressure. Brady's chased. Brady heaves one down the middle of the field into the end zone. A jump ball, and it's incomplete. And the ball game's over. And the Giants have won Super Bowl 46.
This is Sports Central with Joe D and John Franchini on WICR.
Broadcasting live from the basement of La Penta, Sports Central. Joe D here alongside with John Franchini for another edition of the great sports talk radio show that we have.
Good evening, everybody.
How you doing today, John?
Not bad. A little tired.
A little tired? It's been a long week, huh?
It's been a long week for sports, for me anyway.
Why is that?
Oh, the Knicks lost last. Did you see where the Knicks game ended last night?
We got a ton of Knicks stuff. If you love the NBA,
I'm still a Met fan, so.
Well, that's just another problem, and I'm in the same boat as you, and that problem probably will never get fixed. But hey, there's only so much we could do. You can't always bat 1,000. But if you're an NBA fan, we have a jammed-packed NBA lineup tonight. We will sprinkle in a little bit of baseball, spring training, Derek Jeter. We also have some football news. Interestingly enough, the New Rochelle native himself getting himself into a little bit of trouble. So
come on, Ray.
Come on, man. You're better than that. But we'll get into Ray Rice and his troubles later. Let's kick it off with some basketball with the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets currently sitting in 7th place in the Eastern Conference at 24-27. Yes, under 500 and in the playoffs. A common theme in the Eastern Conference, unlike the Western Conference, where at 24-27, you're not making it into the postseason.
No,
you're not even sniffing the postseason for that matter. But they resume play this evening. They're on the road facing the Utah Jazz. And the trade deadline's coming, and the Nets
tomorrow at 3.
Tomorrow at 3, and the Nets have made a deal. They have acquired Marcus Thornton.
Yes, Sacramento Kings guard Marcus Thornton.
Shooting guard Thornton, and they sent Jason Terry and Reggie Evans to Sacramento.
Which I think is a good deal for the Nets.
I think it's a good deal. Marcus Thornton is a scorer. He has the ability to help the Nets in terms of putting more points on the board.
He can shoot. He is going to give the Nets what they had hoped Jason Terry would give the Nets, but it's become evident that Jason Terry is over the hill and he's aging. So, and Reggie Evans was, I guess, just a throw-in. He's also aging. He's going to be 35 years old next year.
Yeah,
and all he can do is rebound. So I think the Nets, not only did they get a little more skilled with this trade, but they got a little younger.
Yeah, that's what I got out of it, especially with Jason Terry struggling this season. I thought bringing in Thornton adds that scoring value that Jason Terry was supposed to provide. The only thing about letting go of Reggie Evans is, as he may be aging, but he is one of those scrappy players who is able to get on the boards, grab boards, collect boards, which have been essential for the Nets, considering Brook Lopez is missing the season due to injury. So I thought,
right.
Of course you had to throw in an additional piece. You weren't going to just straight up trade Jason Terry for Marcus Thornton, but I thought in the long run, yes, it'll help. But in terms of their rebounding and defensive situation, it may hurt them a little bit. But if they could counteract that with Thornton's scoring ability, it'll be a good one.
Yeah, you're right. And looking at Reggie Evans' stats this year, he's averaged 2.7 points and 5 rebounds a game, which is terrible. Which is nothing.
Nothing.
Last year, he averaged 11 rebounds in 80 games last season, so that's a pretty high mark.
Yeah, a huge drop off from last year's production. He still though help the Nets out in need, especially without Brook Lopez, where their rebounding situation, I believe they're towards the bottom in the NBA, if not one of the worst teams in rebounding. But regardless, the scoring threat of Thornton, who fell out of the Kings rotation, will assist the Nets in being better and making a push into the playoffs. They will be in there. In a weak East,
they're not going to go far though.
They won't go far, but in a weak East, they're making the playoffs. That's for sure.
I don't think they're done either. According to ESPN.com's Mark Stein, and Mark Stein, who else? Who broke this thing? Can't even pronounce this guy's name. Ready?
Here we go.
I couldn't pronounce the guy from the Bucks last week. Youngmisuk.
I've never heard of that one.
Well, him and Mark Stein reported that the Nets are actively trying to acquire Lakers power forward Jordan Hill.
Jordan Hill, interesting.
But there is a new team that is trying to prevent Hill from going to the Nets, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers.
And what are your thoughts on Jordan Hill, John?
Well, Jordan Hill, I mean, he was on the Knicks at one point, and of course the Knicks had him for about 6 days, and they saw that he couldn't
do anything,
shoot a three, so they got rid of him. So, and I think he's another one of those scrappy players that I think that's how the Nets are going to counteract losing Reggie Evans, is that they're going to bring in Jordan Hill, who can, he can't average a double a game, but he can give you some production.
He provides some energy and some heart in the game
inside the paint,
and a lot of hustle, which will help in terms of the with the Nets because
especially
of
with Brook Lopez out.
Yeah, especially with Brook out and with their aging roster. So it another scrappy player who can bring some pizzazz, some young ability to that team will help.
Right, but he can also score a lot better than Evans can. Evans really can't score.
Yeah, Evans was really
he was basically there for rebounding and defense.
Yeah, there were a handful of games where he actually was effective in scoring, but he was naturally known for his rebound.
Maybe literally a handful.
Literally, I mean. But before they made the trade for Thornton, there were rumors swirling around with the Nets trying to acquire Cleveland backup guard Jarrett Jack, who really hasn't produced much in Cleveland.
He's been a disappointment.
Very disappointing, especially how he performed in Golden State last year.
But that was a smart move on the part of the Cleveland Cavaliers, because what would that do for Cleveland? They really wouldn't do anything. They're giving up Jarrett Jack, who's younger and more talented, and Jason Terry, right now anyway, more talented. Jason Terry is old, he's got a pretty large contract still. I mean, they both have large contracts. I really don't know. That wouldn't really benefit Cleveland in any way. I think they would just be in the same position as they are right now.
Yeah, I didn't think it had much value in terms of Cleveland in that.
Definitely for the Nets it had value.
Oh, for the Nets,
Jarrett Jack for a change of scenery, because he's probably miserable in Cleveland.
Yeah, I thought miserable in Cleveland, though they're turning it around in a 5-game winning streak, so they are playing a lot.
Let's relax, but still.
I know, but still.
It's a 5-game winning streak.
It's good to see Dion Waiters and Kyrie Irving gel a little more, when at first it seemed as if these two players couldn't.
I mean, you saw what
be on the
Waiters,
court together.
Right, you saw what Dion Waiters did in the.
You know what? I don't look into those stats too much because they play.
I'm talking about the
All-Star game.
Yeah, the future thing.
Yeah, right? I don't look too much into that because they play as much defense as I do on the court, and that's none. So,
right.
But back to Jack, I thought if the Nets could have acquired Jarrett Jack, that would have been great, because Darren Williams is really banged up. He's been battling that ankle injury all season. Statistically, he's having one of his worst seasons in the NBA, other than, obviously, not including his the 2010-2011 season where he only played 12 games. But I thought he would bring a lot more off the bench. I thought, especially since they've been having Sean Livingston fill that hole, who's
been playing good apparently.
He's played well in filling the hole, but I think if you would have thrown in Jarrett Jack there and then still had Livingston to come off the bench in order to revive him or your two guard, I think that makes your lineup even more powerful and dynamic.
Yeah, but Sean Livingston, I was never a big fan of Sean Livingston. He had that devastating injury when he was on the Clippers, the dislocated knee. It was disgusting if you watched the video.
Yeah, gruesome.
And
gruesome.
But I've really never been a fan of his, and I honestly, even though he's playing well, I still don't think he can be an effective sixth, seventh man off the bench.
I think he'd be
Jarrett Jack, which Jarrett Jack can be.
I think Jarrett Jack could be effective as a sixth man off the bench,
Which he was in Golden State.
Giving some rest to Williams, who definitely needs some time off. Whereas Sean Livingston has come into that role, has started plenty of games this season. If you push them back as a seventh or eighth guy, I think once again you're bringing more energy into the lineup at sporadic times during the game where that could help boost the Nets.
Right, I agree.
But overall, I think the Nets, if they could play better basketball, that they will make some not a crazy
I think
run.
they'll get into the playoffs.
They'll get into the playoffs.
Because the East is so weak.
So weak, but I could see them sneaking up to the fifth or even fourth spot. Not going any higher than that.
I think it's pretty high,
I mean, they're at 7 right now, and if you look at it, you have
4.
They're at 7. They're Washington, Atlanta, and Chicago are ahead of them. Out of all those teams, the only team that is over 500 is Chicago at 27 and 25. I mean, it's not unrealistic. If you get hot at the right time and you win your first 11 out of 15 games or something like that.
I'm a fan of the Wizards.
The Wizards they're a young team who are playing better.
Their front court's very good.
The problem is
not front court, backcourt. Sorry.
Backcourt, yeah. It's hard to judge though in the East because they are playing better, but in reality they are a 25 and 28 team, which quite frankly isn't normally a playoff team. That's just how weak the East is. You throw in anyone from the 5th seed to the 8th seed that are in the East, you put them in the West, and they're draft lottery status at this point.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the West is just a powerhouse. This year especially. Golden State is 31 and 22, and they're behind the Phoenix Suns, and the Phoenix Suns going into this season, I didn't even expect them to be this good at all. And last night, Gerald Green had 36 points out of nowhere.
I know, and Gerald Green is starting to get a lot more interest in him again now that he's playing so well out in the desert.
And the Phoenix Suns, the Phoenix Suns in the East, they're a 3 seed.
I mean, it's insane.
And the West, they're a 6 seed. The 8th seed. Wait, hold on. Let me see. The 8th seed is the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference, and they would be a 3 seed in the Eastern Conference.
It's insane to even think about how much more competitive
Let's see, the
West
Nuggets,
is.
The Denver Nuggets, and the New Orleans Pelicans. And the New Orleans Pelicans would be 1 game out of the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference.
At 23 and 29.
At 23 and 29, and where are they? 8, 9, 10, 11. They're the 12th seed.
And how about the Memphis
West.
Grizzlies at 30 and 23, who are outside of the playoffs right now? But yet in the East, you have 4 teams that potentially at the end of the year could be under 500,
right?
Not make the playoffs.
Which is why this trade deadline coming up tomorrow, you really do see a lot more deals going on in the Eastern Conference rather than the Western Conference.
Well, they need to make moves. They need to become more. Teams need to become more competitive. Otherwise, it's going to be those top 3 teams, and the rest they're all mediocre teams. I mean, it's already a shock that at the 3 seed you have the Toronto Raptors at 29 and 24. I mean, who would have thought that? There's no way you go into the season thinking the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference would be the Toronto Raptors. The Toronto Raptors in a division which includes the Knicks and Brooklyn. I mean, that's something else. That's been a shock to me.
That's a very big shock. It really is. And also, did you hear about before we get into the trade deadline with the Knicks? The Philadelphia 76ers, they're 14 and 40, right? They lost. What did they lose? Like 30 something to the Cavs last night. They are awful.
Awful.
I didn't think, and it's unbelievable. The Bucks are worse. They're 10 and 43. How bad is the Eastern Conference? I thought Philadelphia would be bad. I didn't think Milwaukee would be this bad. But I didn't even think Philadelphia would be possible to be losing to teams like this bad.
It makes me wonder that these teams are playing so terrible that it makes me wonder, are these teams really this bad? Or are these teams purposely playing that bad for this draft?
I don't think so. I honestly don't. you heard out of the Charlotte fans that they wanted the Bobcats to tank because and Kemba Walker took to Twitter a while ago and saying how I understand why our fans are saying this, because the fans know that they're going to lose to the Indiana Pacers or the Miami Heat, whoever ends up in first. It looks like it's going to be the Pacers if things keep going. But they know they're going to lose, so they're saying, what's the point of even being in the playoffs when we're just going to get eliminated? Why can't we just tank and get a higher draft pick and keep building on a promising squad we have? I don't believe in that. I mean, you're the Bobcats. You haven't even tasted anything near competitiveness in how many years? 5 since they had Gerald Wallace. But why not just be a part of it?
No, yeah, I totally am against tanking, but it seems
I honestly think the Philadelphia 76ers are that bad. I didn't think Milwaukee is. I don't know what they're doing.
10-43. But here are teams that they play the Knicks and they look phenomenal. So that's just another story.
Yeah, well, the Knicks are a different story.
And the Knicks are a different story. And right after this break, we'll get right into the Knicks because you could have an entire show on the Knicks because that's how much of a disaster that team is.
They're
right
a disaster, and they're making headlines, and they're all busy in what's going on. I don't know what's going on over there today and tomorrow.
So stay tuned after the break. We'll be back talking Knicks basketball.